All right. So, yeah, you can mute your mic because of the background this thing. All right. So, we started with this of our application, and we are able to work on the UI and some JavaScript parts. And the application is all about calculating the age of the user based on whatever they pass inside the box. So we have the day, we have the month, and you have the year. So if you don't put anything inside the box, as you can see, this thing is going to pop out the error for them that they need to input something inside the box. So we have this invalid message coming out. And where is this thing coming from? It's coming from this line that we apply some of this our basic validator. And how do we get the value? From the form, we're able to get all our inputs because the form knows about the controls that is under it based on the way you arrange them in the HTML. So we have our form. Inside it, this is our first input, and this is our second control, and this is the third control. So each one of these control here, you can have access to them directly from the form where you have them, or you can talk to them directly. But we follow the second method or the first method by getting to them through the form. But if you want to do it in a separate way, you can just target them directly by selecting each one of these inputs at the top, and you use whatever you need from them. But since we can have access to them from the form, we are taking the day input, which is going to be the first inside the form. And don't forget, this is going to be an array of controls there. And when you're dealing with array, you start counting from 0. So this one will give us the first one, which is going to correspond to the day. This one will give us the second one, which is going to correspond to the month. And this one is going to be for the year. Then after that, we have this variable that we are using to track whether we have error inside the box or not. So if there is error somewhere inside any of this box, we don't want to do anything with the calculation. And as you can see here, nothing is happening yet. But once I put the correct data inside the box, and here I put 2010 like this, then press enter, as you can see, it's going to calculate the results because we are checking inside this our error here. So inside this condition here, if this stuff is less than 1, we know that there's an error. So we are setting this in to true. Else, if the day input is greater than 31, it's wrong too because the day can't go more than 31. And again, that some months they used to be 30, and some like February used to be 28 or 29 there. But for now, we are just assuming that all the months are going to have 31 as the maximum value. But here now, this thing is not making sense that you're now having 31 of February. This is not making sense, but it's accepting it, but it's not making sense. So we can actually add that validator too, that if the month is February, this thing must not go more than 29. And again too, it's not just every year that it used to be 29. So it used to be every 4 years that this thing used to come with 29 there. This year, I don't think it actually get to this in there 29. So if I go back to the previous month for February, as you can see, it stopped at 28. But if you check last year, it actually get to 29, and it always happen like that every 4 years. But you can actually get this in JavaScript by using the date object to know whether that month or that February of that year is getting to 29 or not. If it's getting to 29, you set the max to 29. But if it's not getting to 29, then you set the max to 28 for February. But right now, we are just assuming that all the months are going to be 31. But it's wrong for this particular month because February doesn't get to 31. It doesn't even get to 30. Talk less of 31 like that. But for now, we are just assuming that all the months or that will be all the day that we have there. And for every month, we just assume that the day will be 31. But we can actually add the error later on that once it's February, we check whether it's at 29 as a max. If it's 29, we check it. If it's not, then we output the error. And for the 28 too, we can output the error. And we can get all this in from the JavaScript object, which is something I will be showing soon there. And again here too, we are saying that if there's no error, then we just set this thing to false. And apart from that one too, we are checking for the month 2 here. So these are the validators for the month. So if the month 2 is less than 1, we know that there's an error, then we add the necessary error, and that's the reason why it's showing invalid value that time. Or else, if the month is greater than 12, because there's no way your month is going to be greater than 12. It's always between 1 to 12. This one is constant, so there is nothing changing here like that. So it's always going to be 12 as the max. So it can be less than 1 and it can be greater than 12. So if it's less than 1, it is invalid value. If it is greater than 12, we just tell them that max is 12 like that. And again, if there is no error, then we just assume that no error with this thing by setting as error to false, and at the same time, if there is any error there, we are removing it. So if it is there, it will remove. If it is not there, then it will not do anything. You will not see error. As you can see, no error is coming out because we are removing the class that is going to show this thing out there. And again too, we set it to empty because we don't want to see any error on the screen. And again too, we have the validator for the year. The year can be less than 1 like that. Year is kind of a complex because you know, you can't just, except if you want to limit it to a particular year, because there are some people, you know, you can't go more than this so year, but we want you to impute the stuff. And again too, whatever you want to impute here, we can actually check whether it is 4 number. The length must be 4. If it's not 4, we can output error for that one. But for now, we just check if the year is less than 0, is less than 1, which means you've not imputed anything. Because if you don't impute anything, our sanitizer that we are using to get the value from the box is going to turn it to 0 at the top here. As you can see, we are clean the input value. So whatever you put inside the year, if it's not a valid value, or if you are putting text, or you don't put anything, it will turn it to 0. And that's the reason why we are checking whether it is less than 1 year. If it's less than 1, you've not input anything, or what you put there is not correct like that. And if there is no error at all, because this is the only thing we just did with the year, so we are setting this into false. And as you can see down here, we are checking whether this thing is false. So if it is false, then we want to do our calculation, which is everything that we have inside this block. And when there is no, or when it is true, if you want, you can actually clear all these things by setting them back to empty if they are not empty. But for now, I don't care about that. It's going to display whatever error or whatever value that is there. So if I click on this thing, you can see max days is 1, but it's still calculating this stuff. We can actually look into that because this day is not supposed to be calculating the value there. So which means one of these stuff here is not done properly, but we can check that one later on. But the major thing we want to focus on today is this negative value that we are getting here, because we are not supposed to be getting negative value. And the reason why we're getting negative value is because the day is actually more than the current date. And what we are doing is the current minus. So what we are doing is the current minus the input. So if you look at it, the input is bigger than the current. And you know, anytime you do a small number, for example, 3 minus 10, you're always going to get negative because the value on the left is actually smaller to the one you have on the right hand side. So, and that's the reason why we're getting negative. But this is still right. What this one is telling us that we need to adjust some of this value so that it will work the way it's supposed to be. For example, here now, today is 2. So if I put 3 and for the month it is 4, and again press enter, as you can see, currently the month is just 0 because it's still 4. So the person have not really gotten to any month, but there's a problem with the day. So you still have like 1 day, because today is 2nd. So it will be tomorrow before you can turn to 15. So we need to adjust this value and remove from the month, because right now you are not there yet. So this month is supposed to be 11. You are still 14 years, 11 months, and 1 day left before you can enter 15 years here. So we need to adjust the value. So once we have negative with the day, we remove 1 from the month, and at the same time we remove 1 from the year, because you've not gotten to that part or to that month or to that year yet like that. So what we need to do now is to add some condition to check the calculation we are getting for the day. Is it less than 0? If it's less than 0, it means we have negative value. So we need to readjust the month and at the same time readjust the year if the stuff is actually less than what we want there, like that. Again too, if this one now is now less than 0 there, it means the month too is not aligned properly. So we need to remove 1 from the year and we readjust the month, because we know that the maximum month is 12. Then we'll do the necessary mathematics that needs to be there. But what are we using to get all this value? What we are using to get the value is this new date here, which is what we can use in JavaScript, which is a class. And out of this class, you can generate a date object. And this date object come with some methods and some properties that you can use on it. So some of the property you can use on it is what we are using on this line 82 here, which is get full year. And what is get full year? The first thing we need to do is to construct the date object. And in order for you to construct the date object, you need to use this new date. Once you use this new date, it's going to check your system date that you have there, and based on that one, it's going to construct an object, and the object will hold all the information about the date that you have on your system. It depends on your system. So whatever you set on your system, that's what it's going to use when you use it like this. But you can actually pass your own day, month to construct your date object that you want. But if you do it like this, it's going to use your system date. And on this X, which is the object that holds all the information we have something known as this get full year. And what it's going to do is to return the year that this object is holding there. So the object, which is the date object, it have the year, it have the month, and it have the day. So on that object now, you can get the year by using this get full year. It's going to return the full year, which is going to be this 2025. If you try it next year, you see that the value will upgrade. Or if you pass your own year, it's going to use whatever year that you pass into it. And at the same time too, what if you want to get the month? So we have this get month like this. But the way the get month work, it doesn't return the correct value that you be expecting it to return, because this thing work based on 0 index. And what does that mean? What that means is that January is just 0. So January is the same thing as 0. So February now is going to be 1. Then the March is going to be 2, like this. And April is going to be 3. The May is going to be 4, and so forth like that. So whatever month or whatever number it returned back to you, just add 1 to it. That's your month. So since it's returning 3 for us here, we add 1 to it, which is going to give us 4. And as you can see, we are currently in April. It doesn't return the calculation based on 1 counting. So it always starts from 0. And 0 is for January, February 1, March 2, and so forth like that. And it stops at 11 because December is going to be 11 if you are currently in December. But yeah, right now we are in April, and the reason it is returning April is because we are using the system time right now. So again, another thing we can do is to get the dates. So we have this X, then dot get dates like this, and this is a one that is going to return the day for us. So this get date is returning the day of the month. Currently now the day of the month here is 2nd. So if you look at the April 2nd, so date will return that 2nd. While get month is going to return the month. But don't forget, the calculation of this one is based on 0. But this one is correct. Get date is returning the correct date, because this is a number that starts from 1 all the way to the end of that month, depending on the month. As you can see, the April stop at 30. So which means here now we cannot have 31 because our April doesn't have 31. So we need to do all those checking. But for now, we don't care about that. So with this date object, you can actually get all these things. You can even know the maximum day that you have in a particular month, or for that particular month that you are working with. So if I want to know the maximum day that we have with this, I can actually construct it from the day there by constructing my own date, and it's going to return the maximum day that we're going to have in that month. But before we get there, you need to be able to construct your own date. When you just use new date like this, it's going to return the current date that you have on the system. as you can see here. So once I press enter, can you see it will return the current date along with the time that you have on your system. It's based on my system. If I update the time, that's what is going to output out there. But I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be with my own date. So here we can specify the year, we can specify the month, but please, month here needs to be 0 base. So if you want January, that's 0. If you want February, that's 1. So not that if you want February, you now go and use 2 year, it will give you match. So the year you are going to have month, again here you are going to have the day. So here now you can use this one to construct your own date. So whatever you pass as the year, that's what is going to use as the year. Whatever you pass as the month, that's what is going to use. But don't forget, it starts with 0, which is January, all the way to December, which is 11. So here now we can construct our own date for any day that we want. Based on like this one now, we can construct a date for what the user input inside this box. So here I'm going to have const y, which is going to be new date. But now my own year is going to be 2010. So for the month, as you can see, this is 04. So month now, for the April, that is going to be 3, because you always remove 1 from it. If you use 4, it's going to give you May. And for this one, we have 0, 3, like that. And now if I call Y, can you see it is April? Even though I passed 3 here, as you can see, it's corresponding to what I passed. So it's going to create a date. As you can see, it's picking it Saturday. So which means if you go to the date and check that April 3, 2010, is going to be this Saturday. So we can get this Saturday number, we can get this April number, we can get the day, and we can get the year out of this Y. So to get it, you can just use get full year like this. It's always going to return year for me, like that. Again, I can get month, but don't forget, it's always based on 0 index. So 3 is just April. So January is 0 and so forth like that. When you are constructing it too, the month, you don't use the actual value, you use -1 of the month that you want to construct it. Again, we have Y, then dot get date. Get date is what you are going to use to get the day. But there's another one too, which is this get day. This day is not actually returning what you'll be expecting. What is returning here is the week of the day. And what is the week of the day? So if I expand this thing back, it started counting from Sunday. This is one like that, and it's go all the way to the day, which is not going to return what you're expecting it to bring out. So when you want to get the day, what you're actually going to use is the date. If you want to get month, get month. If you want to get year, get full year. And that's what we are using here to do all our calculations. So as you can see, the one that the user gives to us, we are constructing it. And as you can see that we've account for the value, because if you put 4 here, we need to put 3. If you put 3 here, we need to put 2. And that's the reason why you see that there is -1 here. Because the user will be imputing the correct month. But behind the scene, we are removing 1 from it. If you don't remove 1 from it, and you try to use whatever the user passed, you'll see that this thing will not work. For example now, if the user passed 04, and you just put 4 here, and you press enter, and we later bring Y, can you see it is now male? Because the month is based on 0. 0 for January, not 1. January is not 1, it is 0. February is not 2, it is 1. So that's the reason why we need to use -1 here. So that when the user put 4 here, what we are going to be putting inside it is 3. When the user put 12 here, what we are going to be putting here is 11. So that the date that we are constructing is going to work. And out of that date, as you can see, we are creating the object here. So we can extract the year, which is what we did here on this line. So let me expand it very well. So for the year, we get the current year, then we minus it from the one that the user incited here. So if you look at it, the y dot get full year is going to give us whatever the user imputed from here, which is 2010. And what we do is that the x dot get full year like this, which is 2025 minus y, which is what the user imputed. And as you can see, we have the 15. And that's how we are getting this 15 here. The same thing too, we did it for the month. So we compare the month, or we remove the current month from whatever the user input here. So the input that we have here is 4 for the user. And again, too, the current month is 4. 4 minus 4, that's the reason why we are getting 0 here. But for the day, the current day is 2. And we are now doing 2 minus 3. That's the reason why we are getting minus 1 here. But this minus 1 is telling us that the month or the year, this 15, the user is not there yet. So it's still remaining some days. And the days is remaining is 1. So we need to remove some month here. We need to remove month here so that we can recalculate this stuff or recalculate the value correctly. Because what's supposed to be here is 14 years, 11 months, and some days left before the user can turn to 15. So which is going to be like a maybe 1 day or so for like that. But how do we do all this thing? We don't want to do this thing by just assume them. So what we'll do is that we use our mathematics knowledge there, because what you are going to be doing here is just to remove some stuff from the month, or you add, or yes, you are going to remove, because once you have negative in day, you have to remove from the month. You have to remove 1 from the month. The same thing too, if you have negative in month, then you have to remove from the year. And that's how it's going to work. So before we set all this value here, we need to check whether we have negative in the days. If there is negative, we need to adjust it. The same thing too, if there is negative in the month, we need to adjust it, and we need to account for the year too. And you know that in order for us to be able to adjust all this thing or to change the value of this our variable, we need to use let, because with let we can modify. If you just use const, you can't come to this next line and then say yes is something else. It will not allow us because it is const. You can't change something that is const. But with let, you can update the value, and that's what we want to do here. So the first thing we need to do is to check if we have a negative in this. When there is a negative in this, we need to remove 1 from the month, and at the same time we need to recalculate this value here. So how do we recalculate the value? What we need to do is to get the previous month, and whatever that you have, or the maximum day we have in the previous month. But how do you get the maximum day in the previous month? It's quite easy to get the maximum in the previous month. You already know your current month. So what is the current month? It's our x, which is what we did at the top here. So in order for us to get the previous month, the maximum day, I know that the previous month is 3 for now. So let's just assume that our previous month is it is March there. So here I can use new day, new date. So I know that 2025 is the year, but you know here I have to use 2, because when you are talking about March, it have to be 2. But how do I get the maximum date or the maximum day that we have in that previous month? You put 0 here. When you put 0 for the day, it's going to give you the maximum that you have there like that. And as you can see, it's giving me this February, which is not what I supposed to get there. Let me put this stuff so that I can return here. Yeah. So this is what I'm supposed to put. So put it in stuff here. So as you can see, here it's telling me that the previous month, the maximum day there is 31. And based on this thing here, we can use that to get our day. So from there, what I can just do, that new date, I can just use it to get whatever date that I want. Now get date is just going to return the date for me. This is the only thing I need. Then based on this, we just add it to wherever we have here. So which means the user now is going to be 14 years there, 11 months, then 30 days, because this is going to be, because whatever that is here before, you just add them together. So 31 plus minus 1, as you can see, is 30. So what we need to have here is 14 years, 11 months, and 30 days, because it's still remaining 1 day before the user can turn to this. It might look like the calculation is off a little bit, but that's how we can get the number of days that has passed for the particular user there like that. What did I want to do here? If the day, so if the days is less than 0, so that means you have a negative value. Once you have a negative value in the day, the first thing we need to do is to remove 1 for the month. And how do we remove 1 from the month? This AI, let me turn it off. What we need to do here is to get our month like this. Then it's going to be minus equals 1. What does this line mean? What this line means is just this. Month is the same thing as month, then minus 1. So whatever that is inside the month before, we remove 1 from it. Because when you have a negative in the day, you are not yet at that month. You need to be at the previous month. And when you remove 1 from it, as you can see, that one too will turn to negative. We are going to account for that one too when we get to the calculation for the month. But for now, when the day is less than 0, we need to remove 1, which you can do it like this, you can do it like this, or you can do it like this. Both of them or 3 of them are doing the same thing. So it's either you do it like this, or like this. What they are doing is they are removing 1 from whatever that is inside the month, and that's what you are going to have. So if the month is 10 before, it will turn into 9. If it is 12, or which we can't even get to 12, the highest is 11. So, or you can even get to 12 too. But here, when it is 1 and you put -1 there, what is going to do for the, let me do it here so that you can see what is going on. For example here now, let me have let m to be 10. So here now if I use m minus, as you can see, it's still giving that value, but if I type m now, can you see it has removed 1 from that value. When you use m minus, what this thing is doing is that you are just removing 1 from the value that is there before. Again, let me do n, which is going to be 12 like this. So down here I can just do n is the same thing, n minus 1, and down, can you see, is 11. If I count n now, is 11. What we are doing is whatever that is going to be inside the n is what is there before minus 1, and that's what we are putting back into the n. What is there before is 12, so which means on this line it will be 12 minus 1, which is going to turn to 11, and that 11 is what we are now putting inside the n. Or you can do it like this. So let k to be 30. So I can just do k minus equals 1. So this line here, this line that I have here, is still the same thing as this line. So this line is a short form of this line. So instead of you do k minus equals 1, you can just do k equals to k minus 1. Both of them are speaking the same language, and as you can see, it has reduced by 1, and that's what this line is doing. But you have to use 1 of them, not the 3 of them like this. Only 1, because both of them, 3 of them will be removing a 1. So if I do it 3 times, it means it will remove 3 instead of removing 1, which is wrong. But these are the different methods that you can use to remove 1 from that particular month there. So after this thing, after the month has changed, we need to recalculate this new value for the day, because the month has reduced by 1. So we need to recalculate the day. How do we recalculate the day? I told you we need to get the highest month that we have in the previous stuff there. So whatever we have in the previous month, we need to use it to get what we need for this current month. So how do we get the last month? Because you can't just assume that the last month is going to be April. It has to depend on what the user type. If the user type 4, that means the previous is going to be March. If the user type 6 here, that means the previous have to be 5. So how do you get the previous? Based on what the user is giving you here, you can actually get the previous one. So in order for us to get the previous month, the maximum day that we have there, so here now const last month like this is going to be new date. New date, and don't forget we need to construct the year. We can't just assume that the year is going to be 2025. The year is based on whatever we have as our current date, and as you can see up here, we have the current date in our object. So where's the object? Up here, as you can see, the current date. So based on this current date, we can extract out the year by just saying the current date then dot get full year. This one is going to give us the current year of the the year of the current this thing that we are on. Again, for the month, how do we get that one too? It's still based who is calling me? Sorry, a call just entered. I don't know who is going to be. Why is he calling me? All right, so to get last month, to get the maximum day that we have, or to even get the last month in general, what we can do here is to use this new date, pass the current year, because we need it for the current year we are on. If it is 2026, that's what it will use here. If it is 2027, that's what it will use, because this thing is not just for 2025 alone. It can work for any current year that you are in there. So if you are in 2025, that's what is going to pick here. Don't forget, what we are using here is based on your system date. If I backdate my system now, that's what is going to pick. When you use it like this without passing any year, it will pick your current dates that you are using on your system. And based on that, we get the year. Then again, we need to get the month too. And how do we get the month? It's quite easy too. What we can just do here is the current date, then dot get month. And this one is going to give us the month too. And again, I'm passing the 0 here, which is going to give us the max date that we have inside that place. And what we can just do here is that based on that, we can extract out what we need. So our days now is going to be plus. I already told you, once we have minus or plus like this, it means you are adding it to the next stuff that we have there. So the last month here now, then dot get the date. So whatever the date we have there before, we just add it to this one. So which means if the previous month is 31st, once we add it to 1, that means you've passed like 30 days of whatever you need to get into there. If it is February, it's going to give you the correct stuff. Whether it's 29 or it's 28, it will give us the correct things there like that. For example, here now, if I use new dates and I put 2024, then I put 03 and 0 like this. As you can see, it's giving me match, but that's not what I want. So put that here. Can you see? It knows that 2024 is actually getting to 29. So this is the last day in 2024 for February. But if you try it now for 2025, you see that the last day is 28. So with this, we can actually get the correct last day, not that you'll be guessing the stuff, because the dates know whether the year you are on can have 28 or 29 for February. And this is what I was talking about that time, that you can use it to add validator to this your month if it is February. But for now, I'm not doing that. You can actually add it from your own side there like that. And once we get that, what we are doing is we want to extract this day out. And in order for us to extract out the date, we can use this our get date like that. So it's only the date or the day that is going to return back to us. I don't need the full stuff. The only thing that I just need out of it is that the day, the maximum date that we have there. And once this maximum date is back, that maximum date is what I will just add to whatever the negative you have here. So to add it, what I will just do is plus, then whatever the negative you have. As you can see now, if the previous month is February now, it means that person has spent up to 28 days. You have some extra day left before you can now move, because you still have 1 day left before you can say you've turned into that particular year. That's just the math that is here. Get the day based on the previous stuff, then add it to the negative you have. Once you have it to the negative, it will turn into the positive number that we're looking for. The month has reduced, but there's a problem here too. What if the month is less than 0? As you can see here, once you remove 1 from here, it will be 0, because if you do 0 minus 1, it's the same thing as minus 1, or 0, or you have maybe 2 or 3. Once the thing is less than 2, we need to remove 1 from the year, and we need to recalculate the month. But the calculation of the month is actually simple, because we know that month is only between 1 to 12. We know that the month is only between 1 to 12. But for the day, the day used to change based on the month. If it is February, it can either be 28 or 29. Or when it is April, that's 30. When it is March, that's 31. When it is January, 31. When it is June, that one is 30. So for the day, it doesn't, like, they are not static. It used to change based on the month. And that's the reason why we are doing this calculation here, to get the correct month and the correct day based on the previous month. You can't just assume it's going to be 31, or it's going to be 28, or it's going to be 29. You can't assume. You have to check the date. Then based on that, JavaScript will tell you the correct one. As you can see here, when it is 2024, the max is 29. But 2025, the max is 28. So you can't just guess that the February will always be 28. It all depends on the year. Some year it stop at 29. Some year it stop at 28. Again here now, if I try it again for maybe this one, let me do it for 2028. I think this thing used to move like 4 years. As you can see, it's now 29. But if I try it with, no, that is not what I want. 28 is what 2028. As you can see, it's 29 because it used to change every 4 years. And again, if I use maybe like 2027, can you see it's still 28? So that's 4 used to be around 4 years. So this is 2024. So that means in the next 4 years, that's where you are going to have another 29. So after 2028, you see add another 4. So which means it's going to be 30, 32, and so forth like that. So that's how you get. It used to increase every 4 years like that. So if I use 32, as you can see, it's 29. So every 4 years, the February is always 29 like that. Once you know one of them, just add 4 years to it. That's when you are going to get another 29 because that's how it changed. Oh, that's the mathematics. But we don't want to guess. We want this thing to be depending on the current year. And we want this thing to calculate it for us. We don't want to be doing it by ourselves. That's why we are using the dates year. So we get the previous, or this is the current month now. So from there, which is going to give us the previous one. And once we get the last month there, we add it to the date because we are getting the maximum date that we have in the previous one. So currently now, we are in April. So what is going to be the previous one? The previous one is going to be March. What is the maximum date there? As you can see, it's 31. So this thing will now be 31 plus minus 1. So what this thing will do here is that it's going to be 30, then plus minus 1. Because whatever that is there before, we are adding it to here. Or you can even do it like this, minus 1 plus 30, plus 31, not 30. As you can see. So which means later on, this one will now turn to 30 days. The user have gotten to 30 days. So again, the month, once we remove it, if it's less than 0, we need to recalculate that one too. We need to readjust it. And how do you adjust it? So we need to do the checking here too. So if the month is less than 0, so it means we have negative. So what we need to do here is the years are like this, minus minus. So you need to remove year too. Just like the way we did for if the day is less than 0, we remove from the month. If the month too is less than 0, we remove 1 from the years. Because it have to be, here now the user is not up to 15 years. They are still 14, but they've spent 11 months and 30 days. That's what we're supposed to have here. Like that. So, and again, yeah, after that, we need to readjust the month. How do we readjust the month? I told you, month is static. It's only between 1 to, the maximum you can get is 12. For month to every year is always 12. But you know, for the day, it's not the same thing for every month. But for every year, the month is always maximum of 12. There is no way you have 13 months. It's always 12 months. So yeah, what we can just do is month, then plus equals to 12. Because we know that you can never go more than. So if it is negative, whatever you have there before, it will just add 12. So if this thing is minus 1, once you add 12, that's 11 months. If it is minus 2 and you add 12, that is going to be 10. If it is minus 4, because if this thing is like 6 now, we still have like this thing left, like 2 to complete that. So it's going to be minus 2 or so. And once it's like that, then if you add 12 to it, then it's going to readjust the month. And at the same time, yeah, I don't think we can actually have a year less than 0 there like that. If you put the correct year inside the box, there is no way we are going to have a less. As you can see here, this is a positive value. If you remove 1 from it, there is no way it's going to go less than what we're expecting, except if you insert a day or this current year there, which means you are not even up to a year yet. So which is still correct like that. Or if you impute maybe 2027, which is not making sense. There's no way you'll be calculating your dates in 2025 and you say you were born in 2027. It's not making sense. You are not born yet and you don't calculate backward, you calculate to the front. So we don't need to do anything with the year. And if everything is okay and putting this thing back, or if you calculate the correct stuff, so this is going to be 03 and this is going to be 2000 like this. Press enter. We're going to get the correct value because the day is still less than the current day we are working on. The month too is still less. So everything is giving us positive. But now what if I put maybe like here now I just put 3. This now 3 is now more than 2. So if I press enter like this, as you can see, it's going to give us what we're expecting there like that. It has adjust the day correctly like that. But I don't want it to be like this. I want it to be maybe around 5. And as you can see now, can you see the year has been adjusted? Because currently you are not in May. You are born in May, but we are currently in April. So there's no way you'll be saying you are celebrating your date of birth. You have to wait for May before you can turn to 25. So before you can turn to 25, you have to be in May and at the same time go to this day like that. And it's going to give us the correct stuff. But the day, sometimes the calculation is not always right because, you know, the day are not the same. January is 31st. So February is 28th. You know, the calculation there used to be off a little bit. But the major thing there is that your year and the month are always correct there because they are static. Month is always 12. And once you remove 12 from whatever negative you have there, as you can see, it's accounting for the correct stuff. But it looks like some stuff are still off to me. But pressing this stuff, we have the 24, the 10, and the 30. And based on what I mentioned before, you can actually account for the month of February, because when the month is February like that, you can't have something like 31. This one now is wrong. The calculation here is wrong because there's no way you are going to have 31 in the month of February. So for the current year, the maximum you can get here for February is 28. So you can add the error here by checking first whether the month is February. If the month is February, you look at the maximum this thing you can have there. If what they impute here is not more than that maximum that they can put there, then there's going to be an error on that line. The same thing too when you are dealing with April. We are dealing with April. As you can see, the maximum you can get here for every April, this one doesn't change. Every April, the maximum is always 30. So if you look at it now, they are imputing 31. It's going to calculate, this thing is going to be off a little bit because they are putting more than what that month can take there. But in our code, we can actually undo all this thing when you are dealing with the month. So where we are dealing with this month here, we check if the month is the same thing as 4. If it is 4, we check that whatever they put here is not more than 30. Whenever this, so this is it here. This is what I'm saying. So down here, what I can actually do instead of doing S here, so we can actually check for that too. So at the top here, just duplicate this value like that. So we check if the stuff is the same thing as 4, and at the same time the day, so the day inputs value like this is greater than 30, because we know when you're in 4, the maximum you can have is 30. So when there is something like this, we want to show error for the day. And how do we show error for the day? It's not for the month. Oh. The error is not for the month. The error is actually for the day. So we are not inputting anything for the month. So I can just go up, get my day error, so which is supposed to be day input like that. So instead of us using this one, let me scroll down. Instead of us using months, so this is supposed to be this. So where is it? So this is it. This like that. What's wrong with my keyboard? So select all this one. D. So this is going to be day input like this. So again, it's not going to be, this is not the error. So it's supposed to be max day is 30 for. So when you are in the month of April and the day is greater than this, we know that that's error like that. So max day is 30. So let me save it like this. Then go back to the page. So put in 30. Here put 4. Here put 2000 like this. What's wrong with this one? So put 4. Press enter. It will calculate the stuff. But if I put 31 here and press enter, can you see the error will now come outside? Because in the month of 4, the maximum you can get is 30. You cannot get less. Cannot get more than that. And that's what this line is there for. So we check if the month is 4. If it is 4, the day must not be more than 30. Once it's more than 30, just output error inside that day, because that's where the problem is, not inside the month. So if you use anything less than 30, anything less than 31, everything will work But if you put anything greater than 30, maybe 32 or 33 or whatever stuff, it will not work for this month. But if it is May, it will work. Because if you check the May is actually getting to 31. So the May is 31. June too is 30. So June is always 30. So these are the days. So April is always 30. June is always 30. This one too. Where is the other one that is always 30? Which other one that is always 30? So this July is always 31. August is always 31 too. Like that. And as you can see, September too is always 30. So all this month you need to check them. So and we can do all those things there here. So any one of them that used to be 30, you can add them here. So if the input to whatever stuff is the same thing as 4 or is the same thing as 12 and so forth like that, I can actually do the checking here by just putting all of them together. So all those ones that used to be 30, I can combine all of them together here by just doing. So I know that the 4 is always 30 like that. So 6 is always 30. 9 is always 30. Every other one. So I can just do include like this. And what am I doing here? This is I'm using array method here, and I'm going to be talking about them in the next class. We have a lot of array method you can use. So yeah, I have something like maybe array of all this value. I can check whether array includes something or not. This will return true or false for me. So I can check here whether it includes 6. As you can see, once it return true, it means that it's 6 as part of the value. If I put 61, as you can see, it return false. It means that thing did not contain 61. So and that's what I'm doing here. If whatever the user type inside the box, if it is any of this one, like 6, 4, or 9, because those are the months that can be 30. So if the value is not greater than 30, it will not work for them. So yeah, if you put 30 for 9, it's going to work correctly like that. But now if I put 31, it will not work because September doesn't get to that. So for September, there is nothing like 31 there. As you can see, you stop at 30. The same thing too for June is 30, and for April is 30. So once you type any of these months inside the month here, you cannot get to 31. But if you type something else apart from that, for example like 10 now, it will accept because October can actually get to 31. The same thing to August can get to 31, but this one cannot get to 31. So I've added that check for all of them, and I'm using the array functionality here, not just copying and paste for each one of them. I'm doing it on one line. But normally if you want to do it, you can do copy and paste, but when you're actually working in real sense, there's some other ways of solving a problem without you creating a lot of code. Every time we are doing here, if I want to do it in a real sense, this is not the way I'll be doing it. I'm going to do it in a way that my code is going to be less. But because I'm explaining to you or you're learning, that's the reason why we are doing a lot of coding here. But if I'm doing it in a real sense, I won't be doing all the checking one by one like this. Some of them is something that you can actually combine them together as one, just like the way I did here. So instead of me checking for 4 separately, checking for 6 separately, and checking for 9, all of them, they are doing the same thing because it's the same error that I'm going to display for them. So I can combine them together by using this array here, which is going to check whether that value is there or not, like that. There's a lot of array value or array method that we can use, which I'm going to be talking about in the next class. Then after that, we are going to be going into the framework straightforward like that. So this is where I'll be stopping for today. On the next class, just like what I mentioned, I'll be talking about array method because they are very important when you want to do some stuff that have a list of data. So just like the way I have it here now, I have a list of 5, 6, 7, a list of number which contain 5, 6, 7. But I want to check whether something is there or not. So array come with this method that you can use to quickly check whether something is inside that list or not. So when you say include and you pass something here, it will either return true or false. When it returns false, it means that thing you are looking for is not part of the list. And when it returns true, it means what you are looking for is part of that list. And based on that, you can make your decision and do whatever you need to do, just like the way we have it here. Like if it is 6 4 or 9, we know that all this one here, they don't accept 31. The maximum you can have there is 30. And once you put something greater than 30, they want to output error to you. The same thing too, we can do it for the February. But February there is kind of a tricky because it's not always stopping at 28. In all this one, they're only 30. It doesn't change. But February, it used to change every 4 years based on the stuff there. So it can be 29 as the maximum, and sometimes it can be 29. So you need to check first whether the year you are currently on is having 29 or is having 28. And based on that, you check whatever the value is imputed here. Because here now, if I put 2, you see that it will accept it, which is wrong. This is wrong. February doesn't get to 31. Even for the current month, for the February, the maximum you are going to get there is 28. But just like the way I showed you before, if it is 2024 or 2028, all those ones actually get to 29. So it's not static. February goes more than the other one because it used to change every time like that. But you know that it will either be 28 or 29, but you don't know based on the year that you are using to check. And the only way you can know is by using the JavaScript object there. Just pass the year there, and based on that, it will tell you whatever the stuff. As you can see here, I'm passing 2030, and as you can see, it's returning 29. So here now we just compare it with whatever this thing return back to us, which is something we can quickly do here too, like that. So it's not something that is really hard. What we just need to do is just to make sure that we do it for that one. So let me duplicate it down like this. So what we just need to do, it's just 1 month that we're checking. So we don't need to do all this include. If it is multiple months, that's a list. So you can check. So it's just one value here. So we can just do dot equals to 2. So if it is the same thing as 2, so what we need to do here is to get the stuff, to get what we need to use here. So instead of it to be 30, we need to get whether it's 31 or whether it's 29 or it's 28. In order for us to get it, we just need to use our new dates like this, get the current year, so which is going to be the current dates like this, then dot get full year, because we need to get the full year. Again, the current dates like this, then dot get we need to get month or like that. So get month, then after that we pass the 0. Then after that we are going to use the get the month, not month, get the dates. Then if it is like this, we know that the user is imputing what they are not supposed to impute. But look at what I'm doing here. There's a lot of crazy stuff, but it's just what I explained. What am I doing here? Like that. So this one is not going to be 30. It's going to be whatever that they pass here. So whatever we did here, so that's what, because the message needs to match. So instead of it to be 30, it's going to be plus whatever the year that they impute here like that. So what are we doing? If the month is February, we need to check whether the day they impute is more than the maximum for that current year. So how did we get the current year? We use the current dates, but there's a problem here. The current date that I want to use is down here, but I'm using it at the top here. It's going to create a problem. So what we need to do here is to move this one up. So what we need to do is to move all this thing up there like that. So what I can just do, because I need to use the value of this current date at the top. So what I can just do is to move it up instead of having it down here. Just cut it out, and at the top I need to use it. Or if you don't want to use it like that, just create it again here. But I don't want to create it, as you can see. I'm using it here, I'm using it here. So that means I have to create it twice, which is not good. So what I can just do is to create it at the top here. So the current date is always going to be at the top like that. And I can use it here, I can use it here, and I can still use it where I need it here. So save, and from there, going back to the page, if this thing is working, if I put 20 here, then February, and no, this is wrong. This should be 2. Then this should be, let's just use 2000. Then press enter. As you can see, it will work. But now if I use maybe like 29, this should not work. So there's a problem here, because the current year is 20, so something is wrong. The calculation is wrong here, because we are supposed to get error. So let me see what I have here. So if the month input is 2, which is supposed to be like that, because if you check it here, the month input is 2. So when it is 2, so the next thing we check is that if whatever the user imputed, which is going to be this day input, if it is greater than whatever the date that we have here, which is something I can get at the top so that you can see what is inside it. So let me put it at the top so that we can see the error, or we can see the value. So const x, I will just call it x like this. Then put the x down here. Where is it? So where are you? Yeah, so put the x here. The reason I'm calling it the x is just for me to see what is inside it. So console log x like this. So save, and going back to the page again. So put 20. This one should be 2. This one should be 2000 like that. Press enter. As you can see, what is the x? So where is the line? Where are we console logging at? So on line 46. So let me see the console. Yeah, so you can see it's showing 31. So which means the calculation is wrong. The calculation is wrong. It's not giving us what we want like that. It's not giving us what we want. So let me see. So look at it here. We are using it to get the current month. We're supposed to get it for the February. So how do you get it for the February? This one's supposed to be 2. And that's where the problem is coming from. Because it's supposed to be the February, not the current month. The current month is going to get it for the previous one, which is going to be this 31. But what we're supposed to be doing it is for February. Always February, not every other month, because we are only doing it for the February there. So going back to the page, then using this 20 again, like that. This should be 2. This should be 2000. Press enter. As you can see, it's giving us the correct calculation. So for this year, the maximum you can get for February is 28. So which means here now, if you input something greater than that, for example, if you input 29 and press enter, can you see is that bringing the error message that is wrong? And why is that error message wrong? Is because I'm supposed to use x at that place too. So let me go down to where I'm using that stuff. So coming back here, so this one that I'm doing here, this is not what's supposed to be there. It's supposed to be x like this, because whatever we get at the top, that's what is going to be there too. So save the code. Going back to the screen. So going back to the screen, using 28 or 2902 2000 like this. So press enter. As you can see, it's going to tell us that the maximum is 28. But once this thing turns to 2028, or if it is 2024, if you backdate your date there, you see that this thing will tell you that the max is 29 if you put more than one. So if you put it for maybe like 3 now, it will work, because we can actually get 29 there. But if it is February, we can't get 20. We can't get 29 from the current year we are working on. So now, if we've handled all the months that we need to handle, and at the same time, we can actually simplify all these things, because they're actually too much. What we have here is just too much. Some of them, we can actually combine them together in one error like that. Instead of us doing them separate like this, I can actually combine all of them together by using something known as regular expression and some other method. For the next class, we are going to be talking about array method, and if there is time, I can actually bring in that this in later on, which is regular expression. But for now, once I explain array, I will be talking about framework, so that you can start working on a big stuff and you separate your code without you putting all of them together. Just like the way we have this HTML together like this, we can use a framework to simplify the process of us building each one of the elements we have here, because you can think of them as a component, or as a compat, or as a standalone on their own. So this input now, we can create it once and we reuse it anywhere we need it. So instead of me duplicating this thing again and again, and anytime I need to change something, I need to do it in multiple places, later on we can just create one of them, then now reuse it. And anytime I need to change something, I only change the source, not that I will be changing all of them every time like that. And that's where the framework will come in later on there, because when you're working on a recent, you are going to see that most of the elements you have on the page, they are just repetition. Like this one, now look at what you have here. this one that we have here, is this the same thing as what you have there? As you can see, they are the same thing. So what I can just do is to create it once. The only thing I will just be changing is the data that is inside it. So you can create it as an element on its own. Then anywhere you need to use it, just pass the text and the icon you want to show, and it's going to display it for you. So if you need to change the color, you don't need to start changing it where you're using it. You only change it where you define the stuff, and it will update everything that you have on the page. The same thing now, look at this one too. See that all of them, they are the same. The difference between them is the icon and the text. So you create it once and you reuse it, because here now you have it like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. This is 12 times. So if you want to do it with normal HTML, you have to be doing copy and paste, copy and paste. And later on, when you need to change something, you have to go through the 12 of them to make the changes. But instead of you doing like that, you can create one copy of it, then you now reuse it anywhere you need it. So you just talk to it that use this icon here and use this text in place of the placeholder that's supposed to be there. And that one requires framework in order for you to do that. And as you can see here, the button you have here is still the same button that you have here. So instead of me creating it again and again, I can just make one copy of it, then from that one, I will just be reusing it anywhere it needed. Not that I will be doing copy and paste. As you can see, this button here is the same thing here. So most of the page or most of the thing you want to do, they are always replica of each other. And you don't want to start duplicating them one by one there. So you can use a framework to simplify the process. And again too, even though the content that will be there will be different, so you see how we used to do this thing, but it's still your normal HTML, CSS and JavaScript you're using, just that it's make it simpler to work with them by breaking all your elements into pieces, into their own file. Then you can now couple them together and use them anywhere we need to, or any page that needs them. But the way you do things there is quite different, but you still be using the knowledge of your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And it's not until you master the JavaScript before you can start using framework. From there, you can start growing there. Because when you want to work on a recent these days, you don't use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript from scratch. You need a framework to simplify the process. Most of the time, when you want to create all these elements, you don't need to create them from scratch yourself. You can actually use a UI framework. And when you want to use a UI framework or UI library, most of them, they are depending on a framework, or they are depending on a library that help you to build the user interface. For example, here we have this something like this Mountain UI. So this one is based on the framework or the library that we're going to be talking about later on, which is React. So this one, as you can see, a fully featured React component library. What is component? Once we get to React, you know about that. A component is just a reusable block of code or a reusable block of GUI element on a page. So you can think of this search box as a component. And inside that component, as you can see, it has some functionality, some of the UI elements that you want there. So instead of you creating all this thing yourself from scratch, we can just use this site and use their pre-built components for our project. So you have a project where you need to use button, you need to use input, you need to style them and do a lot of things. You don't need to do all this thing from scratch yourself. You can just use their this in there. And as you can see, they have different stuff that you can use there. For example, going to this input, you see the different design they have for input. You just need to use it. And as you can see, things look like your normal HTML, CSS, and JavaScript going on here. You can see the placeholder, but here now you know what is function. Later on, you are going to know what is import. That's why we're talking, when we get to the framework part, that's where you know about the import. But this is just normal JavaScript code, but in a more advanced way that we've not really talked about. And as you can see here, they have different components. Can you see the input? So instead of you creating this thing yourself from scratch, they will help you to create different versions of it. So this is the default one with a line, or the one that is fill. You can even adjust the property there. Again, it can help you to build all this in, make the radius to be rounded. You don't need to start building all this in yourself. Again, when there is an error, as you can see, it will give you a different design. All this thing is just for you to pass some stuff down into it, and it's going to give you, and again, all those elements you used to see online, people don't build them directly from scratch. You use, as you can see for the email, it have this icon. It's something you can do yourself, but you can use a UI library that's already built all these things for you. So for the color picker, they have the UI. Can you see? If you want to build this thing yourself, it's going to take a lot of time for you to build a UI like this. But if you look at it, they have it already. Your own is just to use it in your project. And when you have an application that deals with color picker, the user can just give them this application, and from there you can see it will be giving you the color code that the user pick, and based on that you can do whatever you need to do with what is going on. Again, for the rating that you see on different sites, as you can see, they have it. You don't need to build it from scratch yourself. You just use the UI element there, but it requires framework. As you can see, all those things that you used to see online, you don't need to start building them from scratch. All this in some of this UI library, they build it for you. Your own is also to use it in your project. The same thing, as you can see, all the slider, they have everything for you to use like that. So again, the switch that you normally see online too, like for the toggle, so that you see on your phone, you can do it yourself, which I'm going to show you how to do it first before we start using framework later on. But instead of you doing it yourself, just use a framework. What you just call is something that they've built already for you. This is a component for the switch, and you pass the label you want to show, in case you want to show the label, and as you can see, it works out of the box. Just call something like this and you started working. So instead of you using a day to do this in yourself, somebody has already done it down for you. Your own is just to incorporate it based on the application that you want to build. For example, like this application here, which is a dictionary app where the user can search for definition of the word. But there's a lot of things going on inside this application. You building everything from scratch yourself is going to take a lot of time. So you can employ a UI library and along with the framework to combine all this. As you can see, that thing that I just showed you now, that's what is here. So instead of you building this thing yourself, you can actually use this the UI library from here, and you can customize the color there like that. As you can see, you can change the side. If you don't need label, you can remove it, because where you want to be used, you don't need the label. So this will make it easier for you to use, and again, you can even customize it based on what you want to show, when it is toggle or when it's not toggle. And as you can see, it's the same pattern they are using on their site here, where the thing you can see that the icon is changing whether you're in dark mode or you're in light mode, and like that. So they come with different variants based on, as you can see, this is the framework, different UI library you can use later on. But the one we're going to be talking about is React like that. So text area, you can generate text area yourself, but with this, they've styled it and they give you some thing along with it. Again, autocomplete. This is like a select, but as you're typing, it's going to be completing the stuff for you. So if I just type Angular, as you can see, it will bring out all those one that matches the stuff that I type from the list. So for you to build this thing yourself, it's going to take a lot of time. Again, too, for the select that you are known to, this is it here. So if you click, as you can see that all this one, they are customized. You can quickly customize the stuff by changing what is going to be by the side of it and so forth like that. Or if it is multi-select, which if you use your select from HTML, it will never look the same on different browser or different operating system. But with this one now, it will always be the same across the browser. And as you can see, it's adding all this into the list. I can even remove there like that. So they build all this thing for you. Your own is just to use them, or for the normal select that you are used to, if it's not that one. So this one too, this one, as you can see, it's only going to give you that select, and again, it will show the mark, and you can even customize it. But what they are using here, you don't know about it here because it's framework, and nobody will be explaining what is going on. But you can get how it works. And again, to the button, as you can see, they come with different variants for their button, which you can even customize and do some stuff with it like that. So this is what we call UI library. They've built everything down for you. Your own is now to combine them together to build your application. As you can see, they have something like this here for the input. And again, you combine everything together from that UI library and you use it to build your application there like that. Again, you can see here, there's a drop down that you can use. Can you see? It's just like that place, and you can create your own, or you use a UI library. They have something like that. So this is what we call menu, not select, because the way it's coming out is not like the drop down that you have there. So they should have something like that. Most of the UI library always have menu. Yeah, so this is menu. So let me go there, and as you can see, if you click on it, can you see it will pop out? So they have all these things. You don't need to start building them from scratch. Your own is just to style it later on according to your application like that. And how do I know about them? It's because I've used a lot of them. I don't build all these things from scratch myself. When I'm working on a serious project, I will use any of these UI library. And this is not the only one. We have a lot of them that you can use. So this is one of them. Another one is this MUI, which is still popular. This is another popular one. They have the same kind of stuff, but different ways they represent their design. So each one of them have the same thing, just that the UI might be different from each other, or the way they correct their design is what is different, or you can actually style it to look like the way you want it to be. So if I go to this one too, under their component, you see that they have the same kind of stuff. So they have their slider, they have the switch. The difference is just the way they do their design, as you can see now. So this one is like the Android pattern, but that one is with like the iOS pattern. So they come with their own different design and the way you want it, but you can actually customize it according to your own taste. And that's the reason why you need the knowledge of HTML, CSS, because what is going on behind the scene is they are helping you to apply your CSS or apply some CSS, but you can actually change it by customizing the stuff. So if I expand this in, as you can see, you can actually change some of the stuff, the direction. There again, you can change the CSS yourself by passing some of these items later on. There like that. Let me see. They should have the custom side like that. So under their API, you can actually pass the class name. Class is just the CSS that you can use to style it later on. So let me look for where they have the class. Where are you? So yeah, for their side, they call it X6. X6 is just the same thing as class. But you are going to know what is that later on. Once as you can see, you can pass the classes, and based on these classes, you'll be able to style it with your own CSS, and it's going to look like the way you want it to be, like that. So that's going to be all. This is more than what I want. So let